Hi, everyone. Welcome to the SMAC webinar for September 13th. We have 3 great speakers today, which I'll introduce here in just a moment. Just wanted to go through kind of a couple of slides real quick of what's coming up next. So spread the word for 2024. We are taking ideas. You can email them at smac@sitecore.com. Again, anyone can attend. Invite your colleagues, coworkers, and friends. If you have any questions, let us know. At this point in time, we do not have any more webinars scheduled for the rest of 2023. Not to say that we wouldn't host any if there are ideas and presentations that people would like to give and speak about and spread the word on. As usual, this session will be recorded and we will post it on YouTube so you can go back and review. Today's speakers, we're going to start with Walt Roll on the guide to building B2B commerce roadmaps. Then we're going to have Allison Dodd getting in step with the real B2B buyer journey. Last but not least is Isabel Stephen on exploring the personalization capabilities of XM Cloud. And with that, I'm going to kick it off and let Walt go ahead.
Hello. All right, let me click my share button.
I just stopped sharing, so you should be good.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see the big white screen?
Yes, we can. You're
Okay,
good to
great.
go.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Walt Rowley, and again, this is my guide to building B2B commerce roadmaps. I thought it would be beneficial to cover a commerce-related topic for this group. So think of what you'll see today as potential workshop material or a playbook or like an activity list that you would use to accomplish this important goal, either for yourself or for your stakeholders. So one way to tackle transformation is through this workshop and recommendation output cycle. You're working hand in hand with the stakeholders, gathering feedback, thinking about it, and then producing some recommendations based on what you heard and what you know. And some of the models you'll see today will help you answer some of these key questions that you would typically find in a roadmap discussion, like what should we do and when should we do it? What are we measuring? Things of that nature. A little disclaimer for time management, we're focusing mostly on some novel B2B commerce approaches. So, when you build your guide or your motion or whatever it is you're doing, there's these other typical things you would see like industry trends, case studies, what you know about their current state, and maybe even some business input like a SWOT. But I'll focus on more functional approaches, some technical approaches, and we'll have a little bit about KPIs at the end when we get to recommendations. Okay, so let's get more into the examples. To make this more concrete, I wanted to take my guinea pig manufacturer that I found just looking around for global companies that maybe haven't had as much of an established digital presence. And I found this company in Valier. And based on what I could see is they didn't have a digital commerce, but they did manufacture and sell parts and services. They're pretty huge, surprising how many billion-dollar companies are out there. And they've grown through acquisition, and they have these excessive link outs and disparate web properties. So maybe when this call is done, maybe one of us should call them and run them through this workshop. I thought it was pretty clever. So you'll see some pictures of their products and the names of their products throughout, again, just to make this more specific to an actual situation. So this example here, we'll start with our first model, the domain model, and you might recognize this if you've been working with Order Cloud. Now, any authority will do. The reason I like to use a model from an authority, as I would call it, is to build trust with the stakeholders, that there's a reason we do it this way, and it's not just something I made up yesterday. And it's got most of the pieces and parts that you would use to start to peel back the onion and devise what does this strategy look like? Who are the players? How are they interacting? And input, good input, not only to your roadmap, but to the eventual implementation. So we're trying to figure out, which one of those candidates in that domain model example would work, right? There's all different kinds of ways, multi-catalog B2B and marketplaces and other types of models. So this is kind of like a whiteboarding, brainstorming type exercise. Now, typically the stakeholder would lay out the situation for us, the products that they're selling, their pain points, and the different actors. But we don't have a stakeholder right now because I made this up. So I'm playing both sides. And looking at their site, I found this cool robotics example where they manufacture these parts that are used in robotics. And then they also talk about applications where they've seen their products get used successfully. Through some other research, I found that Toyota Research is likely one of their customers, and I saw that on their site they actually do some robotics projects as well, right? So now it's starting to make sense to me. I can see how they might build this product and then sell it to them, and then they use it, so on and so forth. We'll elaborate more on this as we continue to go. So that was just one example, though. But does it scale? Does it work? Does it work in other scenarios? So what's another way that I could tackle that? So again, going through their site, this is actually a navigation of one of the acquired companies and the types of products they have. So using that and some other information I found about who I believe to be their customers, there's find like almost anything on Google, right? I saw a mapping of, I recognized the brand names and saw the mapping to their products. So I could see them selling electronics to HP and medical products to Shire and so on and so forth. So this just further cemented the hypothesis in the previous slide that that's the kind of design we're going to use for this domain model, as it were. So a couple other ways to look at that, some other exercises to go through. And again, these are just different like views or peeling back the onion or whatever analogy you want to use. And what this does is it has different scenarios and there's the different organizations and then you can sort of sequence the activities. They don't have to be linear, but you're seeing how they interact with one another. And this is typically direct feedback you would get from a stakeholder that understands how the business works. I'm not going to read through all these examples, but I seeded this information with what I think is happening. And if you read through it, it's pretty realistic. This also covers both the physical product scenario and the service product, which we'll get more into in a little bit as to why it's important to uncover that. So here's another view, which I call actor modeling. And now what I'm doing is I'm putting a role hopefully against a specific person or people group that's doing a certain type of job. And in the description here, there's these common things that you see in the B2B world, like managing spending limits and catalog assignments and things of that nature. There's even this cool third-party indirect partner type of idea where they're researching how these products were used, and you might consider them on the roadmap because they might need to see things that are outside the transaction, like again, how the robotics application came together. Okay, so with all those different views, and again, that could have been a whiteboard or trading Excel files or whatever makes sense for collaboration, that now gives me a draft B2B model where I put Invaluer at the top, and I have the different customers, and I know the customers are segmented by the areas of the catalog they're interested in. For instance, HP doesn't care about medical products, maybe. You can see the professional services is modeled in there and color-coded. Each of them get their own price. And it's a shared experience, which is great for scale because I can build once and use multiple times. Now, there's dozens of different ways to do this based on the requirements and the layout. But in order to get our roadmap going, we have to start to head in some kind of direction. And you probably see this all the time if you work in consulting, right? Analysis paralysis or failed proof of concepts, so on and so forth. So again, I think it's helpful for anyone in that strategy role to help get some alignment and get the needle moving forward so we can do something. Okay, so then I would move on to the product catalog. Catalog tends to be a risky part of commerce builds. I've seen it jam up a lot of projects. And what we're trying to do here is, okay, now that we have our high-level model and who's doing what, how would those products be brought to self-service? Now, they're focusing in engineering materials, so I put that at the top, and I don't try to solve the entire catalog, right? I'm trying to pick like the big rock, if you will. And I can see that through acquisition, they haven't quite brought everything back together yet. So this DSM and Laxness, not really sure how to say it, they have similar products. Maybe in the future they'll bring those together, but at least for now, I think this works. So I'm segmenting by business unit is basically my decision. And then the product and variants are pretty natural. And you can see that in how they describe the products on their site. And then to the right is this brief survey to quantify some other complexities. These are other watchouts, right? So if I know the number of SKUs, 25,000 SKUs versus 25 million is quite different complexity. Product types usually have different sets of fields, right? So there's more complexity there, so on and so forth. These questions uncover other things we need to watch out for. and we don't have time to boil the ocean, right? So it's a good way to get that complexity out, prioritize it, and then work on it in the roadmap. And maybe a simple output is someone says, yeah, we have service products, but not really that big of a deal right now. And then you just, you put that in year 3, and then you're able to focus on the stuff that matters. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit to the commerce experience, which is more of a functional list of things here that you would typically see in B2B. So it's nice to come into these meetings with questions or ideas or a list of things to go through. What do you think about punch out? And do your customers need standing order? Things of that nature. And then based on the feedback you're getting, the priority starts to reveal itself as to what's really important. Then we also have this view of the checkout pipeline, which again in B2B is where a lot of complexity reveals itself. And it's kind of the same thing. It's like, in shipping, do you have to worry about handling weight? In payment, do you tell me how you handle tax rules? And you start to, again, get this picture of what's there, what's not there, what needs to be improved. It's all going to be input for our roadmap. Okay, so now let's switch back and get a little more. This one doesn't have to be super technical. These can be thought of as functional workloads, but we're starting to angle more technical now, again, just to have a good, well-balanced view of where we're going. This is obviously the mock alliances diagram, but what I added to it is this color coding here to start to score what do we have, what's missing, what needs to be brought up to speed. Great. Also, excellent roadmap input, because these could become projects that we need to do, and there could be certain dependencies. And then to put a face on those different workloads, just getting the names of all the platforms, I think that just makes it more real for the stakeholders, especially if there's something in here that's missing, like we don't have anything that handles commerce transactions. Well, maybe you need Sitecore Order Cloud, or you already have these other tools and you're happy with them. And okay, let's make sure on our roadmap that those not only plug in, but if there's prerequisites for those platforms, let's get those in the right sequence so it's ready when we need it. Okay, so that's all the inputs. So now we're going to take a few minutes on a couple recommendation slides. Again, same disclaimer as before. I'm not showing all the recommendations, just ones that are like specific to this particular subject we're talking about today. You might have more stuff in here. So now for the KPIs, and everyone loves those. Real quick, just 4 categories that you can use. Again, these are examples that I created relevant to Invalier's situation. And what I'm saying is you can become more efficient and delight your customers by being easier to work with. And you've got opportunity for order uplift using these advanced commerce tactics, right? And now that's in like an actual KPI format that they can measure and react to, and so on and so forth. If you want to get more technical or you're angling towards a certain platform, one way to do that, particularly with the composable tools that we have, is to list out all the APIs that are available and just take a score of it. There's 25 APIs here, and you need 20 of them, right? That gives the team a lot of confidence that this tool is actually going to tackle a lot of the things that they need and that they probably need to buy something. Then you have an integration view, again, digging even further technical, so sort of optional, just depends on how far, again, you want to peel back the onion. This is an actual output from a workshop. I just redacted it, and you can see some redundancies and it's like some unusual complexities here, and that's fine. And I think Order Cloud handles it nicely by being able to plug in and not get jammed up by other extraneous technical debt. So you can look at the color codings here to also have input for the roadmap. Things that are blue need to get done now, things that are green get done later, so on and so forth. Okay, so the moment we've all been waiting for, the roadmap. It's not that snazzy, but the details behind this were backed by the models that I showed that elicited key stakeholder information, strategic opportunities, and some of the complex organizational interactions. And then once this, what this is saying is once the initial platform is off the ground, Invalier can seek to better integrate its acquisitions, and it can start rolling out more advanced self-service capabilities. And then you can take score of this every quarter or so and adjust as needed. But at least now the team has something they can really anchor on and say, okay, this is what we're going to do first. And we did all the exercises required leading up to it to give us confidence that this is the right thing to do. Okay, so that's what I have for today. And I think Krista said we would take questions. So if we want to do that, that's fine.
There's a Q&A section if anybody wants to write their questions down there, or they can put them in the chat. Either way, we can just do it that way. I don't see any questions in the Q&A, and I don't see any in the chat. If you think of them as you go along, just put them in there and we can catch them at the end of the hour as well.
Sure.
All right, next up, Allison.
Okay,
There you are.
Hello, here I am. Yeah, just give me a minute for admin.
Yeah, no problem.
For the admin.
I'll let you know when we can see your screen.
Can you see my screen?
I can. You're not in presentation mode. Now you are. You're
there
good.
We go. There we go. We're all good. Hi, everyone. So as introduced, I am Alison Dodd. That's my official name when I'm in trouble. In actual fact, most people call me Ali. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Revere Agency, which is a marketing agency based in the UK. We've worked with Sitecore for several years now, which is kind of why we're here. But really, our job is to help B2B technology brands to deliver marketing with meaning. So that means identifying what really matters to audiences and applying that insight to marketing initiatives. That means we can define, shape, and amplify the distinctive experiences that connect brands to business buyers. So we've got a really short session today, but what I'm going to do is going to lightly touch on one aspect of that, which is how do organisations get in step with the real B2B buyer journey, as I call it, to make that customer experience much more meaningful and effective. Okay, try and do it properly. Okay, so I want to expect some fast flying stats and insights, by the way. So I want to start with expectation versus experience. So customer experience is undoubtedly the defining metric for business differentiation and growth. So it's really critical that marketing activities align to what customers expect and how they act. So when we look at that from the buyer perspective along the top, you know, they're taking their sweet time, right? The average purchase of a B2B tech solution, a complex purchase, takes around 31 weeks, which is around seven to 8 months, depending on how you split it. That's a pretty long time. They're also not the only decision maker in play. Up to 17 stakeholders are involved in the buying group. And according to Google, there are over 40 touch points where they can be influenced. So that's a lot of time and touch points to make or break the customer experience. And not just for one person, you know, that's more than a football team of people with a voice, opinion, and vested interest in that decision and outcome. They also prefer to self-serve with a purchasing process that's more digital, that's more global, that has no barriers or borders. So they really want information to be more compelling, more accessible, transparent, and relevant. They also, like most people, have limited time, limited attention, and they really aren't looking for the everyday experiences that they see every day. It really does have to be more magnetic than that, so much more like the experiences they have as consumers. So when you consider that an estimated $641 billion was spent on customer experience last year, the stakes are so high that an entire industry is developed around this focus. Yet when we look at the bottom row, there's little evidence that customer experience is actually improving. And in fact, there's quite a lot of noise to suggest it's going in the wrong direction, as you can see here. So customers are fast losing patience with experiences that are bad or disconnected or irrelevant, and they are really empowered to do something about it. So when it matters this much, why are organisations so out of sync with the behaviours of buyers today? So it's more than pertinent to now think about how do buyers actually behave. And these are not all of them. These are purely illustrative, but they're just some of the B2B behaviours that we are seeing shaping decision making, particularly around more complex purchases. So they do their own research. Undoubtedly, this complexity that I mentioned means more research at all levels of the buying group. So everyone from a more strategic C-level to more of a technology practitioner. But they don't want sales emails when they've simply downloaded a research report, right? They definitely don't want that and will be really put off by it. As I mentioned, they prefer to self-direct that digital buying journey. There's so much information accessible online that they can learn, form opinions and shortlist options at their own pace. Like most people, they are easily distracted and harder to inspire. I definitely sit in this category. Attention is such a precious commodity, and I think everyone would understand this. We're bombarded by choice and digital content. And when a lot of that lacks differentiation, it just becomes this sea of standard communications. So it's really hard to see the good from the bad, the useful from the not useful or relevant. I mentioned it already, and it's worth mentioning again because they are so skeptical of sales. So credibility really has to come first. So they've become numb almost to these traditional sales outreach methods and resist sales contact for as long as they possibly can. So it's really important to demonstrate insight, relevance, and value before kind of locking into that sales mode. They actually change their minds before making decisions. So they may start out researching a problem that they think they need to solve, but research shows that buyers actually change their problem statement on average of 3.2 times before they actually make a purchase decision. Given these economic times, I'm sure we all understand the aversion to risk, and also they have status quo bias. So obviously don't really want to put in unnecessary effort. They don't want to put themselves at risk. And so it's often easier to not make a decision and just stick with what they've got. Even if it's not great, there's problems, their service isn't brilliant, they'll just kind of adapt to the situation that they're in. So this makes buyer inertia and status quo bias actually a far more powerful threat than competitors, because, it's so prominent. Obviously, again, given the kind of economic shifts and the tight budgets that we're all seeing, they are under pressure to make the right investment choices. So technology is so critical to all strategic business objectives today, and it spans everything from digital transformation, automation, big data, AI, etc., that actually the tech buyer and buyers are under this spotlight, and they have a real fear of failure, of messing up, imposter syndrome, and losing budget or control. So they're also being challenged at the same time to do much more with much less and really make those mission critical business choices that will prove ROI. So very difficult for them. And also they say one thing and then do something else. The say-do gap is really prominent in B2B buyers. They say what they believe and quite strongly, and then kind of do something very different. So generally, B2B buyers are in a really precarious position. They need to make the right choice. They're more worried about decisions creating a loss rather than a gain. They care about their immediate situation, not sales communications, yet they're inundated with pick me type sales emails, contact requests, communications, you name it. And also we know that they like personalization, but they really want personalization because they think it will get them to where they need to be quicker. Because surely content that knows a little bit about you is more likely to deliver the information only you need, is the perception. Whether it's the rule is up for question. And of course, some of these, as I mentioned, are really natural human responses as well, and you probably will recognize them. Do you want a salesperson to contact you every time you download content? Do you respond to every email that you get? And how often are you distracted by your dog barking or your colleagues vying for attention? So, these aren't alien buyer behaviors that sit over there. They're actually quite human in nature. So, it does obviously allude to the fact when you look at this, that is marketing and sales a bit out of step with these B2B buyers. Now, for years, marketing and sales have worked to the theoretical purchase funnel derived from this model, which is the AIDA model. But it's fascinating to realise that this model was developed in 1898, which is, kind of a different time to now. And so all the subsequent funnels and journeys that we've developed from this to kind of frame our marketing and frame our sales nurtures, they are also by default fraying around the edges, going a bit yellow. And And although it's really, really tempting to believe that buyers follow a set of repeatable steps that eventually lead them to choose a brand, you can't ignore the fact that everyone has different needs, different preferences, different pressures, objectives, and even personal and professional styles. What we do as people fuels what we do professionally, undoubtedly. What's obviously very difficult about this is we do need some sort of framework to work to and to nurture against and to measure. But there's no doubt there needs to be some sort of middle ground in terms of where we take this next. The reason that that's so important to evolve this thinking is this is received wisdom that we've carried down throughout the years. And when you actually look at this model afresh, what we get from it is that the B2B buyer makes only rational choices. There's no real room for emotion in here. Buying decisions are very linear and very predictable. That the journey stages are very distinctive and they are set in stone. That purchases are all made within this arbitrary time frame, and that the journey ends after purchase, or depending on the version that you use, that they immediately become advocates, and that we are actually driving one audience each time down this funnel, from top of the funnel to bottom of the funnel, rather than a buying group. So although this is common practice that we adhere to today, is it really still best practice? We tend to now oversimplify our buyer segmentation, and we've really underestimated the impact of real life on buyers and their behaviours. So that's led to a bit of a growing disconnect actually between what brands think buyers need and what buyers actually do want. So this is a well-worn stat. Everyone loves this and hates it in equal measure, because it's such a hard truth to kind of swallow. But it's important to have it in here and recognise it, particularly against the AIDA model, which is, 95% of B2B buyers aren't in the market to buy right now. So for every 100 prospects targeted, only 5 are in market and actively looking to buy. Now, of those 5% in market, we know now that many are researching and self-guiding their buying process. So they're likely to, some way or another, find a brand that successfully gets their attention and turns their interest into action. So already I've used, a few words there that still align very much. But it's kind of how we approach them and understand those distinctions between who is ready to drop into that funnel and who isn't. And they very much are following their own path, and that can be a very non-linear path, as we know, and really kind of understanding what that could look like a little bit more. Or, as I said before, they could just stick to the status quo, but they're likely to do that once they've been through a bit of a process and decided that they don't really have the time, the budget, or the inclination. They're also going much further down this decision-making path on their own, as I say, and they're using digital channels to find that information, those insights, and those perspectives that align to their own. But we're also seeing the impact of this disconnect on the other side of the funnel. So sales and marketing teams are under pressure to deliver on short-term ROI. Again, we're all very much in the same boat. So focusing on driving down to that action purchase sharp end of the funnel as soon as possible, working backwards from their commercial targets. But this really relies on more of a transactional relationship that's driven by shorter, simpler sales cycles than are in reality. It speaks to prospects as single decision makers that are in the market to buy, as I say, to drop into this funnel. And the second statistic in that box implies that they're not necessarily tailoring their approach for buyers and customers. So more of the focus is on first-time wins, less on existing customers. So you can kind of take from that the same message is likely going out to prospects and buyers and customers, who, as we've identified, are actually very different segments and categories. And also that kind of forgets a little bit about customer lifetime value, whereas there's a real opportunity to become their status quo choice. We know word of mouth is still, the strongest form of marketing. So, giving them and empowering them the ability to go and advocate for the brand and kind of stick with it across a wider portfolio. So the truth of the market is, to get in step and succeed today, we must reflect how real B2B buyers want to buy. So as I mentioned, we kind of have our own versions of this, and this is the simplest without doubt. A little bit of a cheat there. Yours might actually be a little bit longer than that. But I think hopefully you will agree that whichever version you're using, the buyer journey is looking a little out of step now. People don't move through the buyer journey the way it was paved all that time ago. If you remember what I said before, they don't always know their problem statement, or they change their mind about it as they research and find out more. They may stick with the status quo unless they have a compelling reason to be in the market or change solution. And any decision will be based on their own shortlist, most likely. And it's the provider that wins their attention and gets their interest and shows their relevance enough to meet their criteria, may be the one that they kind of shortlist and go from there. So it's much more kind of difficult than this would have you believe. So if we align to the real B2B buyer journey, now, I know this looks a bit crazy, and it looks like I decided to throw all our brand colours at the screen, and there was an element of that. But I kind of wanted to do that, which is show that the point of this is it should be a bit crazy and messy, because that's kind of what we're dealing with. So before I finish, I just want to leave you with these quick tips, and it's not exhaustive by any means. But really, some of these will really connect them together, and you can help avoid that fragmented customer experience that we started with, based on what we know about how buyers are moving through their process based on their behaviours. None of these happen in a linear order. They're not one-offs, just like the buying process, but they do align to the patterns that we're seeing today, and they should be considered. So the first one, the kind of the dark one on the top left, is light up the dark. So we are a bit in the dark as to who's out of market or who's researching, because they're going off and doing this themselves. So this is where you need to build that always on brand for ongoing perceptions and future pipeline. Be impactful, be credible, be relevant, offer organic value, so that you can be front of mind regardless of whether they're out of market or just starting off on their research or have a problem statement in mind. Whatever they are, it really is about being front of mind later on, because there's a very good chance that the buyers that aren't in market will be later on, and that's your future cash flow. So that should be a consistent thing that never stops. And it's not really just about brand strategy. This is a relationship driving strategy for the whole process, whether it's a blanket audience, a prospect, a buyer, a customer, or you're building customer lifetime value. That's really important, that your brand continues to have that voice. And brand perception is just as important at the earlier stage of the buying process, in fact more so, as it is for those who need validation as they're about to act. We should also be diving a little bit deeper into those surface level challenges. As I mentioned, these problem statements can change. Buyers may think they have one issue, whereas it's actually something beneath the surface, or it's something entirely different. So this is about using data and research to dig beneath all of that and see what points to those bigger concerns and challenges impacting the organisation. An interesting way of looking at this as well is these are likely to be the unmet or unconsidered needs that your competitors aren't talking about quite so much. So if you can take a kind of different sort of way in as much as possible, this is all far easier said than done, I understand. You're looking for return on attention. As I mentioned, there's a lot of emphasis right now on all sides around ROI, but you really want to activate attention fast through your brand, undoubtedly, but also whatever activity you're doing, you need to balance that visual stimulus, whether that's interactivity, immersive experiences, experiential, with interest that buyers will remember. Sort of back it up, tell them something fresh and relevant. At the very least, you want to avoid boredom and multitasking and sort of that distraction element. It's also good to take creative risks. Marketing Week said quite recently that 71% of B2B ads are considered boring and generic. So this is an opportunity to go against the tide. Obviously, you want to speak to and answer the buying group and flex to their nuances where possible. So it's really about considering the criteria of that diverse set of stakeholders. Normally the people involved are, the line of business, who the technology might be impacting. Obviously, you've got procurement, you've got C-level, all sorts of different things, and kind of work out what those personas might be looking for. But you also need to think about those who are in and out of market versus existing customers, because as much as possible, you want to be reaching the right group of people at the right time with the right message across that range of disciplines. Honestly, each decision maker does ideally require a more tailored experience based on those expectations and behaviours, but that's very difficult to do. But some are definitely better than just one. You also want to offer self-service guidance over gatekeeping. So, we're all a bit guilty of gating content, holding our good stuff back, all of that, but it's really about sharing their most wanted information openly as part of this self-guided journey, offering support, advice, opinion, automate things for them to make things a little bit different, a bit easier, be transparent, and really you want those buyers to find the answers to their most pressing questions. On demand, ungated content is the way forward. It should be at their convenience. You want to use triggers to build mental availability, so associate with, when they're entering different categories, if you can find that out from intent data, the intentions that cause people to enter the market and start building a memorable brand in those kind of areas and be seen and have a voice. And of course, we don't want to forget about our existing customers, as I said, so make them feel special by creating a loyalty loop. So, have ongoing things that you can do for existing customers. So that might be a loyalty marketing program or some sort of loyalty recognition and reward. It could be a community hub. That's worked really well for a lot of B2B brands. So very exclusive. And personalized marketing experiences generally, because obviously driving the purchase is just one step in this relationship. You want to increase that lifetime value, and the more your customers can advocate for the brand and then share their own insight, their own behaviors, their own feedback, the more genuine a brand can be with other potential customers in future.
Hey, Alison.
Hello. Have I run over?
We are just at time. I don't know if you want to just wrap up real quick.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Absolutely. I knew this would happen. I was perfectly timed, and then start chatting. Obviously, the last two are really, really obvious, right? Be more digital, interactive, but stay human wherever possible, and always walk every mile alongside the buyer. You can't step into their shoes. You shouldn't attempt to. Be with them from the first to the last mile. And then I am right at the end, which is life is not a straight line. So to get in step with B2B buyers, understand their behaviours and preferences by following their digital footprints. There we go.
Excellent. Awesome. Great presentation. I was not paying attention either. I was so absorbed in what you were saying. Isabel, you are up next. I'm just going to go ahead and let you take it away so we can maximize your time.
Hello. Right, I will just start sharing my screen.
We can see your screen.
Is that you seeing?
Yeah, you are in presentation mode. Yep, all good.
Fab, great, right. So hi everyone, my name is Izzy Stephen and I'm an optimization executive at Sagittarius, working in our experience team. So today I'm going to be exploring the personalization capabilities of XM Cloud in the Pages feature, and also going to run through a short demo of how to implement personalization in the platform. So just a quick agenda overview. So just going to do a quick overview of XM Cloud, the process of transitioning to XM Cloud from XP, the features of XM Cloud Pages Personalize, an overview of the audience builder, and then going to be applying personalization to a page in a quick demo. So I'm sure, considering the audience today, I don't need to spend too much time going over this, but just a short overview on XM Cloud for anyone who may not be quite as familiar. So XM Cloud is a SaaS-based CMS. That is globally scalable and can integrate with your organization's other systems and platforms across your entire digital landscape. A few high-level points. You can create and manage multiple websites and environments all under one umbrella. It also reduces the need for software infrastructure and increased resources and maintenance. So it's globally scalable and allows you to manage high volumes of content from any location. So a quick overview of XM Cloud's key features and applications. So we've got the Content Explorer and the Components Builder, and then we've got the Pages tool where you can build and edit your web pages. And then within Pages, you have the Personalize feature where you can create an audience using that out-of-the-box templates. And this is the feature that I'll be focusing on today. And then lastly, you have your Analyze, which is an analytics dashboard that updates every minute to give you both current and trends over time. So in the world of digital today, there is no denying that we are all aware of the importance of personalized experiences in achieving digital engagement with our audience. Personalizing your website to provide a tailored experience for the user based on analytics and behaviors is an important part, or should be an important part, of an organization's strategy. For those organizations currently on XP and thinking about making the switch to XM Cloud, the impact of this transition on their personalization strategy is an important factor to be considered. For those who are currently on the XP platform and only using rules-based personalization, XM Cloud is a solution that will suit their personalization strategy. The personalization feature in XM Cloud should allow your marketing team to be able to implement the conditions quickly and with ease. The user interface is super easy to use, especially if you are using the interface for rules in XP already. And it's also important to note that there's no dev implementation needed for personalization within the Pages feature. The next thing to note is that you personalize the whole page at a time in XM Cloud, even if we're just making one or two changes to the components or one or two components. Therefore, the page load speed will be much faster, so that no matter how many parts of the page that you personalize, it should not affect performance, which is actually one of XM Cloud's massive advantages over XP from a personalization perspective. So how is the personalization offering of the Pages feature in XM Cloud different to the personalization capabilities in XP? And also, what can be achieved in XM Cloud without the investment in CDP and Personalize? So there are a few key differences, such as the lack of profiles and patterns, which is probably the biggest limitation in my opinion, which those with a more sophisticated personalization strategy will definitely miss in the transition. Some of this, to an extent, could be replicated using page view conditions in the Pages feature of XM Cloud. However, not on the scale or to the level of complexity. But yes, it is possible to build pages with certain content and surface it to users based on what sections of the site they've visited. There is also no time of day and specific location, so we are missing the ability to personalize based on geo-IP, and also unable to base the strategy on a specific state, for example. The limitation could come up when trying to personalize content for specific hours of the day and possibly for an event or promotion in specific areas, just as an example. And definitely a lack of customization compared to the offering in XP. If the condition isn't in one of the ones that I'm about to go through, there is no way of customizing them to create a condition. However, with all of this said, XM Cloud's Audience Builder offers a variety of out-of-the-box templates that could be used alone or with each other to personalize pages to your users. So personalization is carried out of the page in a what you see is what you get editor, and can be used for component integration and your layout modifications. Next, I'm just going to run through the Audience Builder. So as I mentioned earlier, the Audience Builder consists of out-of-the-box conditions for personalization of your pages. These conditions can be thought of as the rules that you'd be using in XP. So in basic terms, they are still defining who is going to see what version of the page. However, this is done at a page level rather than at a component level. I'm going to run through the different templates available so you're able to get an idea of what's possible within the platform, but it's also important to mention that there is the ability to stack multiple templates, group the templates, and adjust the priority order of the conditions. So if you were to get creative with this, there's definitely a lot that you could be able to achieve. So the first is the time-based conditions, which allow you to personalize based on the visit day of the month, the day of the week, and the month of the visit. Then we've got the device conditions. These allow you to target your content based on device types and specific operating systems. So an example of using this could be linking Apple Maps on a Contact Us page on mobile, just for iOS devices. Then we've got page view conditions. So these deliver content to users based on a specific page. So this will be their visit to a specific page, whether it be their first visit within their session or the number of pages viewed. So a great example of this would be surfacing promotional content to users who've viewed a campaign landing page, for example. And then we've got geolocation conditions. So as I mentioned earlier, there is a bit of a limitation with this, but you can still use these to target content based on either a region or the country itself. Then we have user interaction. So to start with, you can target based on if they're new or a returning user. And then to get more specific, you can target content based on UTM parameters and also their first referrer URL in their current session. And then lastly, we have point of sale. So this allows you to personalize based on the site identifier, which is aligned to each site. So an example of this would be surfacing content based on a specific language. So now I've been through the audiences, I'm going to run through a quick demo of using the personalization feature of pages. So I'm going to build an audience, which will be for a returning user so either a returning user or they viewed a campaign landing page. And then we'll be personalizing the page according to the audience. So I'm just going to try and jump into XM Cloud now, if it will let me. So sorry, just a quick switch. Okay, hopefully you can now see the portal. Can anyone confirm that they can see it?
Yes, we can see it. You're good.
Okay, fab, thank you. Right, so I'm just going to go into XM Cloud. You have to excuse all our sites from some internal training that we did. So I'm just going to jump into pages. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm on the right one. Right, so I'm going to personalize the home page. So I've made sure I'm on it up here, and I'm going to go down to the personalization feature here, and I'm going to create a variant. And I'm just going to name this variant SMAC demo. Okay, and then I'm going to start creating my audience. So my first condition is going to be a returning user. So I can just search it at the top here and add it. So the visitor is returning to your site. And then the next one I'm going to do is if they viewed a page. So I'm just going to put this one. So page view, visitors viewed, and it's called campaign landing page. And I'm just going to change this rule here to all because we want either of these to see it. And then I'm just going to save my audience. Then we go back into here and we've got our SMAC demo variation. So at the moment you can see none of these are personalized because they're all this yellow color. So the first bit I'm going to personalize is going to be this header. So I'm just going to click on that and then we're going to edit the content item. You don't want to edit it straight in the rich text because otherwise it will change it on the default as well. So I'm just going to edit this here and then I'm going to create a new text. I did one earlier, but I'm going to call this SMAC Demo 2. And we're going to assign it. There we go. And now we can add our text that we want to add in. So I'm saying that they've reviewed a campaign landing page. This is for a skate shop. So I'm just going to do something like shop the summer sale of the best skate products. And then since this is our header, I'm just going to put that in header 4. And there we go. This is now personalized. Rich text is personalized. The next thing I'm going to do, just as an example, is I'm going to personalize the image. So I'm just going to click here. Oh, there we go. And then I'm going to edit the content item again. So here I put an image in my content items earlier, so I'm just going to use this image and assign it. And there we go, change the image. I'm just going to click back into both of these and publish the item. Hopefully it won't take too long. I imagine it will. Right, that's published. And then we're just going to publish this one as well. It's not the best image fit, but you guys get the idea. There we go. I don't know if this is going to take too long, but we can see from the default that we've personalized the header and then we've personalized here as well. And that's how to apply personalization in XM Cloud. And that's me done. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you. And 3 minutes to spare. Is there any questions? I don't see anything in Q&A. If there are any, now's the time you can type them in the chat. You can type them in the Q&A. I don't see anything. All right. Well, with that, we will go ahead and end this. I will say also, Izzy, is that what you go by, Izzy?
Yeah.
Right now, our personalization team is looking at what do customers want and need for XM Cloud priorities and what they've explored so far, what they like, what they don't like, etc. So if you guys are interested in working further, understanding more, have questions for Izzy, or want to work closer with the team, I also see Christine Bookless on this call as well. I think I've reached out to her on LinkedIn. Please let me know. We'd love to work with you guys and go further with this as well. I always keep in mind what the product team is working on, and if there's any other input you guys like to do to work closer with the product team on these items, and then obviously speak about them on these webinars. All right. Thanks, everyone. And with that, we'll go ahead and sign off. I don't see any questions, so we are good. Bye, everyone.